Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this special edition of Ask the Theologian. We've got a great program today. As you have seen and you know and you expect, we've got Through Israeli Eyes, War, Islam, Future of the Middle East with our friend Boaz Shalgi. He's been with us before. Of course, many of you have seen Boaz, met Boaz, talked to Boaz, loved Boaz and his family, as me and my family do. And we're excited today to have him. I would love for you all to let us know whatever platform you're watching on. If you don't mind, just log in and say a little hello. Tell us who you are, where you're from. It's always good to know, and Boaz will be excited to see some of you, like Dave and Gail down in Texas, and Alan Dodson in Kentucky, and Stephen Green in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, and the villages in Florida where life is great in the bubble. That's a good thing, isn't it? And Bill in Tupelo, and Jim in South Carolina, Piedmont, South Carolina, Toby in Oklahoma, all these others, and I'll say hi along the way. And one of the things that we will do is allow for questions. Here's the way you put in your question is you will I tell you, the easiest way is if you'll write the word question first. That way, if there's a lot of chats in there, I can spot those out pretty well. And through the broadcast and definitely towards the end of the broadcast, we'll be able to take those questions, and you'll be able to guide the program that way. For those of you who I may not know, I'm Randy White, and I have been friends and traveling with Boaz for I don't know, 20 plus years, 25 years. Ever since Boaz was like a teenager. He didn't have his own company, EDI. It was a potluck travel guide. I was on my second trip to Israel and got this kid. Well, I was a kid too, I guess, but who traveled with me, and I just sat in the front row of the bus. You know how it works with the guide over there and the preacher over here. And the entire time, the poor guy could not get any quiet time because I kept asking questions. I was so intrigued about Israel, about Hebrew, about Israeli life, and I don't know, Boaz, I'm going to put you on. It probably hadn't changed since then, has it? Keep asking questions, and you keep giving me answers. But welcome, Boaz, to the program. Glad you're here.
Hey, Randy, my friend. I'm honored to be here today, speaking from the very northern part of Israel, from the far upper Galilee. Sabbath is coming in just a few minutes, and I'm hoping that we'll have a very good lecture today so folks can really understand better what's happening in the Middle East.
Yeah, and I'm excited about it as well. I think we're really going to have a good program as I've been talking to you and seeing what is on and available there, and really will be, I think, good, fun stuff that will be taken. You got lots of friends here, Marie down in Texas, and Jan right here, and Taos, although she's from Austin, and Mississippi's here, Carol in Bradenton, Florida, maybe you know her, Warren in Colorado Springs, Colorado, Linda, Lexington, Kentucky, just they're from all over the place. Boaz, there comes Alabama in here, and so give us a little update. First of all, let me just say right from the beginning, I don't know how you guys survive. You know, it's by the hair of your chinny chin chin. That, not only do you have war going on, but there's no tourism, virtually no tourism. Very difficult for a tour guide, and you've been serving your country and doing well. So God bless you for your faith, for your commitment to not only the biblical text, but your commitment to your country and your people as well. Thank you, Boaz. Why don't you take it and lead us from here?
All right, thanks, Randy. And to answer your question, I told you almost on every trip, to Israel, that one plus God is majority. Amen.
Amen.
And so that answers how we're still here and how we still survive, and how what seems to be against all odds is actually possible. God is in charge, and that's really the answer. And we help him in a way. He doesn't need our help, but he wants us to participate, and we do our best. So what I want to talk about today is the war in Gaza, is about Yemen and the Houthis, 1,000 plus miles away from us, sending rockets into Israel, and why that is happening. You'll be interested in what is U.S. doing, what is Trump position on everything that's happening here, the visit of Trump to the region without stopping in Israel. Why is that? There's all kind of things that I'm going to give the intro to the lecture, and then through your questions, we're going to cover pretty much everything. But before we start, I want to give you a few minutes of foundations to understand why this conflict. Of course, if you open the Bible, it's all there. The war between Isaac and Ishmael, that started 4,000 years ago. That never ended, and that will never end until that big final war. This is all written in the Bible. These are the prophecies in the Bible, and this is going to happen. And the proof to that is that over so many years, so many people came to Israel, presidents, prime ministers, kings, dignitaries of all kinds, and none of them succeeded in bringing peace to the region. Not even peace, even a long-term ceasefire was not successful, because this is not the plan. This is not what is meant to be. Now, when we try to understand, other than the Bible, why that is happening, that's what I want you to understand through what I'm saying now. We all need to understand that unlike Judaism and Christianity, Islam never settled amongst the nations, which means that the whole thing of war and jihad and all of that, this is something that is in the core and the base of Islam. And when you have a culture that tells you in your face, we admire and we adore death while you adore life, this is already something that you cannot overcome by just fighting them. Because when you go to battle, you know that you have a lot to lose. When I served in Gaza for 100 days, I knew every day, every moment, that there is a possibility that I'm not coming back home. And that is something that, makes you not afraid, but afraid for what you're going to be losing. I want to see my kids succeeding. I want to see my grandchild that was born recently and play with him. There's still a lot of things that I want to do in life. But your enemy says, I don't care about all this. I don't care about myself. I don't care about my wife. I don't care about my kids. I don't care about dying. As a matter of fact, I want to die, because when I die, I'm going to go to heaven with all these virgins around me. And so you understand that you can't really fight this war when your enemy has nothing to lose. Many scholars call it the clash between democracy and the barbarian civilization. 1 second, please. Boluto. Sorry. And when that happens, there's only one solution. There's only one way where democracy can prevail against barbaric, unhuman, Nazi environment. And that one thing is land. If there's one thing that the fundamental Islam, loves more than anything, more than their families, more than themselves, more than anything, is their land. You take land from them, that is like taking kids from us. And that is why a lot of times people in Israel are saying, hey, what we need to do is we need to take land. We get into Gaza, we need to occupy places in Gaza and annex them to Israel, because that is the only way that the Arabs will say, okay, let's do something about it, because we don't want to miss pieces of land and all of that. And of course, when that happens, the whole world comes against us and wouldn't let us do that. And that's part of the reason why this never ends. Okay? So, why did this start? You're asking yourselves, what is it in the Arab culture that makes them so violent? And again, I'm talking about Muslim Arabs. There's also Christian Arabs that's a whole different story. We're friends with them. They serve in the police forces. Many of them serve in the army. So I'm talking about Islam. When you look at the environment of the Middle East, the desert, the terrible conditions of the desert, this is where people already few thousands of years ago realized that the only way to survive is to be tough. To be tough, to be strong. The desert is not hospitable. The desert is hostile. And if you're weak, if you are not strong, you're not going to survive. So the rules of the desert are very, very cruel. There's no way to compromise. There's no way to settle issues with others. You need to take everything by force. And gestures are always viewed, excuse me, as weakness. That is the desert mentality. When Islam started, it started in the desert, in the area of Saudi Arabia. So now there's a mixture between the new religion, Islam, and the violence of living in the desert. And so Islam had pretty much no choice but adopt the desert violent mentality, and it carries it up until today, 1300 years later. Now, this is not a lecture only about, the beginning and the birth of Islam, but it has to be something that people will understand, because on every single tour, people are asking me, but Boaz, we're all people, we're all humans, we all have families. There's no way this doesn't have a solution. And I keep saying, folks, listen, it is not what you think it is. You have a family, you have kids, you have grandchildren, some of you. You know how much you care for them, you know how much you love them. But it's not the same on the other side. And we, coming from democracies, cannot comprehend that. We that bring children to the world, raise them, invest in them, hug them, travel with them, play with them. How in the world do we want them to be harmed in any way? No, we don't. We'll sacrifice our own lives to protect them. But when you raise your kids, and from the age of 2 or 3, when you send them to the kindergarten, and what they learn over there is how evil Jews are and how good they are, and that Jews are monkeys, pigs, and monsters, and that the Jews took their land from them. And then as they keep growing, it gets worse, because now they can comprehend more. Now you can brainwash them more. And then they start injecting into them the idea that if you actually kill Jews, not just hate them, kill them, then you're really going to guarantee your place in heaven, which explains to you the atrocities of October the 7th, 2023. I don't know if any of you saw any videos of the atrocities. If you did, then you know exactly what I'm talking about. If you did not, I don't know if it's recommended for you to watch. But when you see people that are storming into Israel and they're raping girls, a father and a son raping a girl together, when people are beheaded, when people are abused to death, when people are being kidnapped, babies, women, old men, young men, civilians, soldiers, you understand this is not another civilization that you are used to. This is barbarian culture altogether that our Western mind cannot even comprehend. And that's why I felt I needed to come up with this introduction, because this is going to answer many of your questions that will come later on. As for the situation in Gaza right now, well, the war is going on for a year and 8 months now. There's no solution so far. And the reason is that, unlike our war in Lebanon, in Gaza, we cannot go full force because we still have 58 Israelis. 20 are assumed to be alive, and 30 some are probably dead. Not probably, they're dead, and we want to bring them back. And it's hard to do that and at the same time fight with all the force that you have. Notice what we did in Lebanon. Hezbollah in Lebanon is a lot more powerful than Hamas, yet we took them in about 2 weeks. You all remember the beepers and how we eliminated all their leadership and how we destroyed all their launchers and rockets in no time. But in Gaza, it's different for the reason that I just mentioned. So, having said that, the war is still going in Gaza, but on a lower volume, I would say. Not long ago, the Israeli army recruited again 50,000 reservists, and we were all waiting to see what is the next stage as far as the American administration is going to offer. So Witkoff just came up with another idea, another solution, and as always, Israel embraced it, and Hamas today said that they rejected it. And so, what's going to happen now, I think, or at least what Benjamin Netanyahu said, that if they're going to say no, we're going to recruit about 400,000 reservists and get into Gaza full force, and this time to actually destroy them completely, meaning that there will no longer be Hamas, that there will no longer be an entity in Gaza that threatens Israel, and at the same time, hoping to also get the hostages back. How that's going to happen, I am not sure. If all of those that are still alive will stay alive, I am not sure. But one thing I'm certain about is that the monsters of Hamas need to meet with their creator, and better soon than late. So that is what is happening right now. As for Lebanon, it's been very quiet since their leadership um, died, was killed by Israel. It's been very quiet. And as a matter of fact, the South Lebanese army is now cooperating with Israel on destroying on the Hezbollah facilities that are there. And they even started mentioning lately a peace agreement with Israel, which is great because Lebanon has no conflict with Israel. We don't have any territorial conflict with them. The only thing that separated between us and them from achieving peace is Hezbollah terror organization. And you need to understand all these terror organizations, violence is their oxygen. Once we have peace with a country, then they're irrelevant. Who needs a terror organization when you have peace with your neighbor? And that is why it is their interest that there's going to be never peace, never quiet. And that is how they justify themselves. Hey, watch, we have no peace with Israel, and we are the defenders of Lebanon or Jordan or any other country. But that is because, like I said, that is their oxygen. They cannot survive in a peaceful environment. Now, Randy, if that's okay with you, I want you to play the first video that I sent over to you. And folks, what I want, it's about 3 minutes. And what you're going to see there is the leader of Hamas, Yahya Sinwar, whom we killed about 7, 8 or so months ago. But this is, of course, a speech that he gave when he was still alive. This is something that I recorded from the Israeli television, and I made my comments along the way, so you'll also understand what he is talking about. But basically, again, it's preaching for the destruction of Israel, for the fact that Jews have no right to exist, or at least not in this part of the world. And he was so fanatic that he promised the whole time, even when he was imprisoned in Israel, he promised, one day I will be out of prison and I will destroy Israel and the Jewish people. If you can please play that, Randy, that'll be awesome.
Okay, that's exactly what we'll do. And let me say, as I cue that video up, also that those of you online, if you think of a question as we go along, just go ahead and put it in there. If you put the word question first, that helps us. But let's just move right along to this video that Boaz mentions, again, recorded from Israeli TV.
This is the leader of Hamas before he met with his creator. His name the Butcher Gaza. He buried his cousin while he was alive.
Is it being played?
Yeah, it is. I'm looking at the sound. We don't seem to be getting the sound here.
While in prison in Israel.
Okay.
And said that this is Satan.
Let me know when it's over because I can't see it.
Okay.
The bad spirit, the cruelty is second to none. And you're threatening against Israel, population Israel, to destroy Israel. They executed Palestinians in Gaza left and right. Anyone whom they thought was in opposition or collaborating with Israel was brutally tortured to death. Here you're seeing the invasion of Hamas into Israel on October the 7th. And here you can see the evidence for the massacre.
Randy, is it being played? Okay.
We also investigated them, and they kept saying, if we don't destroy the Jewish nation this year, we'll do it next year. If not in this generation, the next generation. But mission will be done. This is Sinwar, the younger brother, who took charge.
Randy, they're saying that the volume is very low.
And Israel killed him a week ago.
Okay, Boaz, that video is just finishing up there, and for some reason the volume on it was very low. I apologize for that. Those of you who'd like to see that, you can check your or go back on your YouTube and play it as loud as you can. There seems to be a inherent problem with that. But Boaz, let's come and tell us a little bit about what we may have missed for those who couldn't hear.
Yeah, so like I said, what you saw there is Hamas leader when he was still alive, filled with poison, not mentioning one word of possibly living together as neighbors, of possibly having, a mutual future, of anything positive, basically. Only destruction, and how they're going to kill us, and how they're going to kick us out of here, and how they're going to take the land from us. That's basically what he was preaching. That is what they're teaching in schools, that Jews have no right to exist. And with such mentality, obviously, a war or an ongoing war is obvious. There's no other way to deal with it. Now, from here, I want to add another layer to what is happening that makes all this very difficult. And this is a word that you're all very much familiar with. It's called anti-Semitism. Now, when I say anti-Semitism, I don't think that most people really understand what that means. Because if I ask you what's anti-Semitism, you'll say hating the Jews for different reasons. Some will say because they crucified Jesus or were responsible for the crucifixion 2,000 years ago, and that hasn't been forgotten or forgiven or things like that. Others will say because they're wealthy and they control the money and the world and everything else, so we hate them and we're not as successful as they are. There's a lot of things about it, but I want you to understand something else about anti-Semitism. Most people in the world, unfortunately, at this point, hate the Jews. Most of them, I believe, don't even know why. When people in the universities in the United States last year were asked all these things that you're saying against Israel, all these things about free Palestine, all these things about from the river to the sea, 90% of the people did not even know which river and which sea. But they know we got to hate Israel. That is the bottom line. So it's a blind hate to the Jewish people. But it doesn't end there. Notice what the nations of the world are doing. Everything that's being done in Israel, which is not even an eye of a needle on the world's map, everyone worries about that. Every single thing that happens in Israel is all over the news, all over the world. Why is that? Why don't you open your TV and you hear about minor things happening in New Zealand? Why don't you hear about a minor thing happening in Nigeria? Nobody cares. But one little thing in Israel, and it's world news, because the world, the anti-Semitic world, is watching us with a magnifying glass. No, you're Jew. You can't do this. You're not allowed to do that. All of a sudden, everyone worries for the Palestinians in Gaza. Who cares about them in the world? Since when does the world care about the Palestinians in Gaza? Why doesn't the world care about the Christians being persecuted in Egypt? Why doesn't the world care much about what is happening in North Korea? Even in Iran, people are being executed almost every day. Where's human rights? Do you know that in the UN, Israel is being condemned more than Russia, Iran, North Korea combined? I mean, how ridiculous is that? But that is the truth. And you can check me. These are facts. And also, listen to this. The world is saying to the Jewish people, you have no right to attack. You only have the right to defend yourselves. And that is why it is okay when Israel is developing the Arrow and other, anti-missiles, missiles, because this way would prevent missiles from falling in Israel. But to attack, oh, no. Jews cannot do that. Even now, when the Houthis are launching missiles from 1,200 miles away, the world will not let us to retaliate. And don't get it wrong. The big smoke and fire that you see there from the Israeli retaliation, that's nothing. In the end of these fancy operations, you hear that 2 people were killed and a civilian, airplane was destroyed. No, no, no. That's not how you fight a country that attacks you. But the moment Israel will really attack Yemen, all over the world, Israel will be condemned. Israel is killing civilians. Israel has destroyed their airport, and now food is not coming into Yemen, and the Yemens are going to starve because of Israel. People, this is anti-Semitism at its worst. And that is exactly what's happening here. So we are experiencing these horrible days now because it's a deadly combination of the rise of fundamental Islam in our region, but in the whole world at the same time. Needless to tell you what's happening in America. You saw the Jewish couple that was murdered in Washington a week ago, and there's more and more Jews leaving America, leaving England, leaving France, and migrating to Israel because they don't feel safe anymore. So the combination between Islam and anti-Semitism is a very, very bad recipe for achieving any agreement in the area. My friend Randy, let's please open it to questions now, because I'm sure that people have lots of questions, and through that, they'll get the complete picture of what we're talking here about today.
Excellent. Let's do that. I have so many questions myself, but I am going to prioritize the questions that came in online, and you'll have obviously plenty of time to talk and to learn what's going on. But one that relates, Boaz, to a question to something you just mentioned with the murder of the couple in Washington, D.C., for example. Jim in Piedmont, South Carolina says, are you seeing an increase in people making aliyah because of the growing anti-Semitism in the United States?
Absolutely, yes. The numbers, we have statistics of people who make aliyah every year. And yes, there's a dramatic increase in that. And again, it's not surprising. For so many years, people knew that Israel is home, but at the same time, they felt very comfortable in places like the US or different parts of Europe, not all over, but different parts, Australia. But do you know how bad the persecution of Jews in Australia is right now? I mean, we hear about it like every week, about synagogues that are being abused, anti-Jewish graffiti all over. And so it's spreading like cancer, and people understand, well, if we are not safe, let's at least not be safe in the Jewish land in Israel, because there is a strong army that will at least protect us, which I cannot say with full confidence about other places in the world. So the answer is yes.
Yeah, excellent. Hey, let me throw in one word here on that previous video that we did not see or hear well. I am going to upload that, and I'll put a link in the comments below so that people can watch that later. Okay, let's go to Scott down in the Hill Country, Texas.
Randy,
yes.
Randy, before that, after I said what I said about anti-Semitism, do you think you can play that short video that you have about the young Jewish guy speaking about anti-Semitism in Ohio?
Yes. Let me see if I can get that pulled up here.
And I hope the sound will be okay, because otherwise I don't think they'll hear anything, or I don't think there's subtitles there. So it better work.
Right. Let's see. Was that the third video? Do you remember?
I don't, but do you see a guy? There's a guy standing like a little stand with people around him in an auditorium.
I tell you what. Let me pull that one up while I give you the next question, Boaz.
Okay. Okay.
And that is from Scott down in the Hill Country, Texas. I wonder what percentage, he asks, of Gaza's people are fully dedicated to terrorism.
Okay, that is an amazing question. Okay, here's the answer. Statistically, it's about 70%, 70. And then one can say, on the one hand, well, that's a big number. And another guy says, yes, but 30% are innocent.
Sorry about that. We'll get Boaz right back on as we go. He was talking about the number of the guilty and the number of innocent. Sorry, there we cut off Boaz, and you are now.
Can you hear me now?
Yep, we can hear you. And let me get you back on camera, and you can pick up. You were talking about 70% and 30%.
Yes, I said 70%, and about 30% are not involved. But you see, that doesn't help because it's not a democracy. The 30% don't have a voice. So you don't ever hear them. You don't ever see them, other than now a little bit of demonstrations. And there's another thing to it. I hate this comparison, but if God forbid someone has cancer, it's not all the body cells that are infected. But if you don't kill the entire cancer, it's going to kill you. You can't say, hey, this is good cancer, this is bad cancer. You just have to get rid of the whole thing. And when you're dealing with enemies who hate you so much, and about 70% of them want to see your destruction, and the 30% are silent, then as far as I'm concerned, that's 100%. Because the 30% don't have any influence whatsoever on changing that agenda. So you can say safely that most Gazans are seeking the destruction of Israel.
That I want to elaborate on that and ask you, turn it into a bit of a question. But it has always seemed to me that if the Gazans wanted to end the war, they could do it immediately before the day is out, really, by releasing the hostages and the Gazan populace saying, we believe in Israel's right to exist. We reject Hamas completely, and we raise the white flag to be a peaceful Gazan country, whatever it may be, without terrorism. Why don't they do that?
They don't do that because, again, Randy, understand, they live in an environment where if they create an opposition to Hamas, they're being executed in public in front of everybody. And when everybody sees that, they go, okay, we don't want this to happen to us or to our family, so we'll just either join Hamas or keep our mouth shut. Otherwise, we'll be executed as well. But you're right, because if there was enough people, not just a minority, let's say that 70% was for peace with Israel, then it would have been different, because then they would have had enough power to overcome Hamas, even in a violent way, and get rid of them. But most of them don't want to do that, and those that want to do that cannot do that. And so the end result is that it's not happening. The whole thing about October the 7th, one of the reasons why we were caught by surprise is that we could not believe that they will do that. And the reason is that we enabled the world to send billions of dollars into Gaza. Billions. And at the same time, we opened the Gaza border and enabled tens of thousands of Gazans to come and work in Israel. And we figured, they get a lot of money, they get a lot of support, and they have work. I mean, they can come and make a living in Israel. They should be happy campers. And when life is good, why would you want to destroy that and ruin that? That is the main reason. We could not believe that. We did not see that coming. It's literally, cutting the hand that feeds you. But again, it's not about that. Now we understand that the whole time that this was happening, they were planning the attack.
They were building the tunnels for 20 years. They were smuggling weapons. 90% of the billions that they got went into weaponry and into tunnels and into ways of destroying Israel rather than developing Gaza. Gaza could be a beautiful Riviera. I mean, it has beautiful beaches, beautiful sunsets. I mean, just imagine that with hotels and restaurants and cafes and tourists and an airport and all that. But no, anytime you went there, all you saw is poverty, people not receiving money from Hamas, tunnels being built, tens of thousands are being recruited to join Hamas. So one day they'll be part of the army that will destroy Israel. And eventually, it ended with October the 7th.
I think it would be good here to remind the folks, too, that Israel did not and never invaded Gaza and took that land, that rather Israel in, 1994 or so, 30 years ago, gave the land completely to Gaza for an independent, self-sustaining community there that could have had its own government and in large part did have its own government. And so for 30 years, the world spent billions and billions and billions of dollars into Gaza. And Israel also supported Gaza, and this was the thanks they got for it. Is that good history under Ariel Sharon?
This is an understatement because the atrocity of October the 7th in the kibbutzes, the communities that are around Gaza, these are the people, these are the Jewish people who helped them, who employed them, who drove them for no charge to the hospitals in Israel for medical treatments, who would fly blue and white balloons to Gaza to show how much they love them and want to have, good relationship with them. And the same people that protected them, brought bread to their table, these are the people that were raped, beheaded, and whatnot by the Nazis that invaded Israel on that cursed day.
Cursed day indeed. Let's go to a politics question for Israel from Stephen down in Gainesville, Florida. Says to me, Stephen says, your leader, Benjamin Netanyahu, is a man's man of all men. I absolutely love him. What are your thoughts about him being in power for so long? Stephen says to me, him and Trump are perfect. What say you, Israeli?
Well, on the one hand, I do think that it's too long. I mean, once I didn't really think it matters that much, but recently I started to understand that the American system is probably better, and you should have 8 years at the most, and then let someone else get into power. But at the same time, I can say that Netanyahu is doing a fantastic job in this war. I cannot imagine any other leader in Israel that will be powerful enough to stand against a very hostile American administration under Biden and Kamala and Obama that was behind the scenes and say no to what the American president said. Not everyone can do that, and Bibi was able to do that. And in one conversation, he told Biden, "If you keep boycotting Israel, we'll fight with our nails if that's what we have to do. But we'll keep fighting. We're not going to just cave in, to you because you, for whatever reason, want us to end the war when there's so many hostages in Gaza and when there's so much damage was done to Israel. We need to take care of it." So yeah, he's the man right now. There's no doubt about it. And yes, I hope that he and Trump will be a winning team that will bring a good resolution to the area.
Help us out on the American side a little bit. One, we do have a system which has a forced change to it at least every 8 years, if not every 4 years. And that has kind of been a blessing to us many times. But so we're always looking at the pipeline. Who's up next? Who's capable? Are there some Netanyahu-style thinkers and leaders that we should be keeping an eye out to say, hey, here's somebody that we might want to encourage, pray for, support in Israeli politics?
Yeah, you know what? I would say that Naftali Bennett, who was our prime minister for just 1 year a few years ago, and he's now coming back. He's not from the same party of Netanyahu, but he's been working very closely with Netanyahu for many years. And ideology speaking, they're very similar. And Mr. Bennett is a lot younger. I mean, he's probably what, 50 right now. Also, a veteran of a very elite unit in the Israeli army, someone who understands security, someone who is very smart, great English. And so I don't know at this point who he is going to invite into his coalition. But if he invites people that are on the same mindset that he's got, I think that that's the future.
Okay, let's go to next question comes in from Jolly Holloman. I'm not sure where Jolly is from, but the question, is it true, with a parenthetical, says, as Israel reports, that starvation has been used as a tactic against the Palestinian people? I assume she means by Israel starving out the Palestinians. And of course, you have been in Palestine, and I think even worked in some of those food missions. So I may be wrong on that, but tell us about that. Is there starvation brought about by as a tactical weapon by Israel?
I will say this: the war is ongoing now for 1 year and 8 months. And if people can starve for 1 year and 8 months and still be alive, they got to be very strong people. So I'm being sarcastic here, but the answer is absolutely not. I was there and I saw with my own eyes hundreds of trucks. I even posted that on Facebook. If you follow me on Facebook, you saw that. And if you haven't, you can follow me now and just scroll down, down, down until you see it. Hundreds of trucks every day. It is only recently that Israel stopped it and said, we're not going to keep doing this because they don't want to bring our people back to here. They're continuing the war. They are getting Israel into economy. Just that you know, it's been 1 year and 8 months that I'm not working, I'm not employed, and I have a family. So it's really hurting almost everyone in Israel. So Israel said, okay, we're going to limit the food getting into Gaza, not starving them, limit the food. And that's what we did. But after, world pressure, as always, we said, okay. And we opened, the checkpoints to have more supply getting into Gaza. And that's what's happening now. Although we began a new system together with the Americans of how to minimize the chances that these supplies will get into Hamas hands. And if that's going to be successful, that's going to be maybe the beginning of the end of Hamas, because militarily speaking, Hamas is about to die any moment. But as long as they still control the people of Gaza with food, with other services, they're still in control. Once the food is not in their hands anymore, they're gone. So hopefully that's coming soon.
Yeah, and that's got to be a monumental task of trying to figure out how to get the food in there without it going to Hamas and being used against Israel. Okay, let's move on to the next question. Comes from Rhonda in Missouri.
Wait a second, is Missouri in the United States?
barely. But hey, I started to say to you earlier, Boaz, you're in Israel, not Texas. There's no excuse for talking about kibbutzes.
Okay.
The Hebrew word is kibbutzim.
Absolutely.
Okay. I always have to teach Boaz a little bit of Hebrew.
Yeah. Now that you know a little Hebrew, right? Yes.
That's my favorite joke is, and you all too now know Boaz, you know a little Hebrew. There we go. Rhonda, why isn't this explained? That this may have a connection to something we had earlier, and we'll have to make sure we get the connection right. But Why isn't this explained by leadership when they have the camera on them? We're not being told that Gazans are murdered in the streets by Hamas if they do not comply. Okay, back to that statement you gave earlier about if they don't comply with Hamas, they're executed. And I agree, this is not something that, at least in the United States, that we know about. And who's covering it up? Are your people talking about it and it's not coming through to us, or what's why isn't the message out?
You see, what happens is that when things are happening in Israel, we send to the world, videos and news that some of it is against us, some of it is in our favor. We're a democracy. We're transparent. We show everything. We're not hiding anything. But obviously, the things that are not in our favor, are in our favor, are not being shown, or very, very little of it, because it doesn't fit the agenda. When the agenda is that Israel is the oppressor, Israel is the aggressor, Israel is the one that occupies, Israel is the ones that destroys, then if you show all of a sudden that, hey, but there's a reason why Israel does that, then your story is no longer an attractive story anymore. You want to show a clear underdog, and you want to show a clear aggressor. That is your agenda. And you don't want the facts to confuse you. That's how we say that. So that's the only reason. But believe me, come to Israel, open the news here, and you'll see everything. You'll see the bad situation of people in Gaza on the one hand, but on the other hand, you'll see why that happens and what happens to Palestinians that try to speak up. And, it's not a secret. And if you don't want to take my word for that, there is an app called Telegram. Telegram. Download Telegram and just punch over there whatever you want to see. Just right there, Hamas executing people in Gaza, and you'll see the videos if you want to see them. I'm not sure.
Yeah, okay. Telegram is a good place to get news that's not going to be on CNN or Fox News, for that matter, or any of the major outlets here. Good response there. Let me ask you here about an issue that you brought up earlier, and that is you talked about the culture and how this is really, you didn't use the word, but it's really a culture war that is taking place there. And you had, excuse me, let's see, I'm not coming through there for some reason.
I hear you.
You hear me? Okay,
yeah.
There we go. And I think, sorry about that, if there was an audio problem on my end. But as we go through and look, you talked about a culture of strength, and that this is the culture that is known and understood for Israel or in the Middle East. Do you think that there was an issue back in Jimmy Carter, or even go back a few years ago to John Kerry, that they tried to negotiate peace in the Middle East based upon our American kind of Christian, be ye kind one to another culture, rather than a culture of honor, a culture of strength, and that's why there was so much failure through there?
Of course. I mean, you nailed it right there. And it's not only then, listen, it's also what is happening as we speak. America under Trump is now negotiating with Iran. And if you pay attention to what the Iranians are saying, they keep saying all the time, even during the negotiations, we are not optimists. America has to eventually do what we tell them or want them to do. And you're asking yourselves, wait a second, how in the world is Iran threatening America? I mean, if America wanted, in 1 week, you can wipe them out of the face of the earth. 1 week, not more than that. And Israel proved a few times in the last year how weak the Iranian army is and how vulnerable they are. And they're threatening the United States of America. You see, this is a culture of, I'm going to be strong and violent to the very end. And Westerners cannot understand that. And sometimes it's even intimidating because I'm sure that in the American administration, they're saying, oh, wow, well, if that happens and they'll start attacking us and they'll start attacking Israel and our allies in the area, it's not going to happen. Iran doesn't have the capacity to do that, but they can talk and they can threaten. That's all they have left. And one lecture that I attended recently, the guy who's an expert on Middle Eastern relations, he said, the Middle East is the only place in the world where the weak dictates the terms, meaning Israel is destroying Hamas, but Hamas is the one that sets conditions of how to end the war or ceasefire or whatever. Can you imagine that 80 years ago, the Allies, after defeating Germany, Nazi Germany, the Germans would have said, okay, we have terms and conditions now. Forget about it. Who cares about that? We are telling you what to do. We are the new boss. We have defeated you. Well, in the Middle East, that's not the case. You defeat someone and he still tells you what you can do and what you can't do. And that is why America needs to learn not only Arabic, but to learn how to speak Islam. If you don't understand their mindset, you'll never be able to really accomplish anything with them. And my thoughts is that it's not going to work out with a nuclear thing that America is trying to solve out with them. And if they do, it's going to be really bad. Because one thing I know for sure, the Iranians are not going to give away anything from their aspirations to eventually have the bomb and then right after that send it over to us.
Yeah, I think there is a huge divide between American thinking and Middle Eastern thinking. And most of us on the streets in the United States of America really do have a hard time understanding this. And I think you can even go back to the days of Samson, for example, and many days in the Old Testament, and see this culture of honor that, I was shamed and therefore I've got to do this payback is so much part of the culture that we don't understand. We live in an environment, and I'm not sure it's all that good, but we live in an environment in which if there are two people not getting along, we set them down and we say, now listen, let's talk it out, let's work through this. And you live in an environment that plays king of the hill, right? And that it is what it is. I think even Richard Nixon was talking about the Russians here, not the Middle Easterners, but Richard Nixon said, hey, we don't have to convince them that we want peace or that we like them. He said the way to have peace with Russia is we have to convince them they cannot win.
Exactly.
I think it's the same way, isn't it? Now, is in Gaza or in Islam, fundamentalist Islam, do they think that they can win, or are they beginning to give up?
I think that deep inside them, they know it's not going to happen. They did not destroy Israel when Israel was a country of 600,000 people in population only, with an army that's a joke, surrounded by millions of Muslims that invaded into here, and yet they didn't win. So to think that if you fail then and you want to do it now when Israel is a world superpower with technologies that I cannot even specify them because they're so classified, now it's going to happen? Of course not. But their war is about bugging us all the time. It's like a mosquito that bites you again and again and again. One bite will not kill you. 20 bites will not kill you. But 200 bites will maybe convince you, hey, I'm going to go to a different locations now because I've had enough with it. So I think that their aspirations right now is not to kill all the Jews because they know that's not realistic. But if they make our lives here hell, maybe we'll just leave one day and go look for a better place for us. I think that's their dream.
Yeah, okay. Anytime you get on YouTube, you get some anti-Semites in the United States, and we have one here for you today, Boaz. So I want you to address something. Anti-Semite 72 Marshall 15 says you didn't defeat the Nazis, you are the Nazis, National Zionists, and speaks of Havara, if I'm pronouncing that right. The Nazis didn't move to Argentina, they moved to Palestine to recreate Israel. How do you as an Israeli Jew respond to anti-Semitic comments like this?
Who said that?
His username is 72 Marshall 15. I'm sorry, 72 Marshflower 15. So someone we don't know, we're live on YouTube, and therefore anyone can watch it. And they see Israel, and you talk about Israel, they come out of the woodwork every time.
And she says that, that we're the Nazis that came here.
That's right, accusing Israel, the Zionists, of being the true Nazis.
I would have said, let's go to the next question, but I don't want to be that rude, even though the question itself is not one that I should really address a proper answer to. But if you believe in that, then clearly you don't believe in God and you hate God, because if God is the creator and you believe in the Bible and everything that's there, and he says to the Jewish people, you're my chosen people, and I'm going to have an everlasting covenant with you, and now it turns to be that we're Nazis, then it means that God himself is a very bad, evil God that created Nazis to be his chosen people, or that God is not perfect and he created something he thought was going to be good, but it turned to be bad. So clearly the person with this comment has nothing to do with God and beliefs and Bible and all that. And for someone to think that the Jews that lived in Europe and were good citizens in Europe did not have a Jewish state in Europe, they were scattered all over Europe, they paid their taxes, they served in the militaries of the different armies in Europe, and then when Hitler came to power, he brought 6 million of them into the gas chambers in order to kill them, and the survivors came to their homeland, and they're the Nazis. I may not be intelligent enough to really understand what's behind this question.
Well, it's awfully hard to address that which is not based in historical reality or current reality. But this is where anti-Semitism comes from, is the Satan, as I believe it was Linda in Lexington commented earlier, Satan hasn't forgot the Jews, and Satan, goes about doing this Jew hatred kind of work that takes place all over the place. Let's move to Carol, and I saw this earlier. I'm not sure. Carol may be in Florida. I'll straighten that out. Yeah, Bradenton, Florida. Carol's question is, Boaz, we know your business has suffered since October 7th. I would say probably hasn't had income since October 7th. But let's go on. What about in Israel, agriculture, manufacturing, innovation, all the technology things that go on in Israel? Has this been able to go on? Is it continuing? What's happening there in the agricultural industrial side of things?
Yes, the answer is yes. Don't get the wrong impression that Israel is paralyzed. No, it's not. And people wake up in the morning and people go to work. And in some places, it's almost back to businesses as usual. And even when the war was a lot worse than it is now, the Israeli farmers were very brave and courageous to go and farm their land, even near the border. And quite a few of them even lost their lives over there, but they never quit. They said, this is our land, this is our farmland. And if we live here, if we quit this, that's going to be the end of it. We may not ever be able to return to here. So yes, but unfortunately, when things like that happen, that's usually tourism is the one that suffers the most, because tourism is luxury. People come here, but they come here only if it's safe enough to come here. You're not going to travel to a place where you say, hey, I may die there. So that's the first thing to go down and the last thing to come back. And that is why, if you're a tour guide or a tour operator or a bus driver or a bus company or a restaurant that hosts tourists or hotels, then you really get hurt. But there's other businesses where the war did not affect that much. So all in all, Israel is doing okay. We obviously spend hundreds of billions on this war, and I'm sure that taxes will increase when the war is over to get back, all these losses. But all in all, things are okay. Tourism is hurt deeply, and hopefully that will be resumed soon as well. My prayer.
Okay. Yeah, excellent. So let me move to the next question, which comes from Jolly. Again, I'm not exactly sure the location there, but Jolly says, what is the plan for Palestinian Christians? People have been following Jesus since he was born there. And of course, you have Palestinian Christian friends. We have some mutual Palestinian Christian friends, Fadi and whatnot. I don't know if there are any left in Gaza. Talk about the Palestinian Christian community in Gaza, if there is any, or the Christian community, I should say, in Gaza, and how do they get along? How do they view Israel? What's happening there?
There's very few Christians left in Gaza, not many at all. Christians that were there fled long time ago. They understood that there's no future over there. Unlike the Muslims, the Christians are educated. They send their kids to schools, to universities, and they don't want to be part of this, brainwashing and everything that's going on in the Muslim, society. The few that are there, I'm assuming that when the war is over, they'll also try to flee from there and find a better place to live in. There's also Palestinians, not only in Gaza, but in the West Bank, in Bethlehem, in other places. And again, those of you who have traveled to Israel with me, you know that I have a great relationship with them. I always try to support them. I always tell you on my tours, we're going to stop by a Christian shop, by a Christian restaurant, and please even spend money over there because, they need that. They need that. And in all of these places, the Christians are a minority. And so, they don't really have the voice and the power against Islam. And we are there to help them. Unlike Gaza, we have easy access to Bethlehem, to Hebron, to Nablus, to all these places where, if need be, we can go right away and help them. So our relationship is great. As far as I'm concerned, I would have given all of them Israeli citizenship and bring them over to Israel.
Yeah, I assume that the Palestinian Christians are mostly dependent also upon tourism, that there may be some interest in industry or something.
Yeah, I have a few friends that in the beginning of the war left to different parts, to some to Europe, to United States, to Canada. And they said, Boaz, there's no reason for us to stay there. And hopefully when the war is over, we'll go back.
Yeah, excellent. Let's talk about travel a little bit. Since you're a tour guide, is tourism picking up? But here's the question I want. If I want to go to Israel and I want to take a small group of 10 or 12 or 15 or 20 people to Israel to show solidarity, would we come back alive?
If you survive the layover in Chicago, then yes.
Excellent. Is it a viable thing to go to Israel today?
Yeah, it's safe. Look, obviously, when you see everything that you see on the news, you don't say, hey, that's where I want to go. But if you know me and you trust me, then I say yes. Not only that, for the solidarity groups that are coming to Israel now, I think that in a way they have an experience that no one ever had and no one will never have in Israel. Because A, there's no crowds in Israel because the groups are very, there's not many of them. That's one thing. And another thing is you can really go visit places like the surroundings of Gaza, places where the kibbutzim were burned. Some of the homes are still burned. You can meet with survivors of these communities that will tell you the story of what happened to them and to their families. You can meet with people that were in captivity in Gaza and came back. You can see the places where the atrocities took place. You can meet with active duty soldiers. You can meet with reservists who are going because of ideology and love to their country at the age of 50 and more. So it's going to be different from the classic tour, but it has its added value, to come now and see Israel from a different angle.
Yeah, excellent. Those of you interested in maybe doing that, the few, the brave, the solidarity people, come and join us, or send me an email, randy@randywhiteministries.org, and we'll see about putting one of those together. Here's a question from Linda in Lexington, Kentucky. How or is the world helping the hostages that have been rescued, especially the Israeli hostages? Any world help at all? Everyone wants to help the Palestinians. What about, I'm going to make this a two-part question, help for the hostages themselves that have been released, but then in addition, I don't know, thousands, I suppose, of Israelis were displaced and moved out of their kibbutzim, moved into hotels, whatever. Does anybody in the world help them, or is it all on Israel, or are they on their own?
They're on their own. The only help they get is from Israel and from wonderful Jews and Christians from the United States and some parts of Europe who volunteer and come to Israel and spend time with them and help, renovating their homes and do all kinds of things for them voluntarily. But other than that, if you're talking on a big scale of sending support, financial support, or anything like that to them or to Israel, the answer is zero.
Yeah, unfortunately, I was afraid that would be the case. Okay, Boaz, we have finished the questions. Anything else that you would like to add to today's broadcast? And go as long as you want.
It's a perfect time because the Sabbath is now beginning, and in a moment, I'll go and have a beautiful Shabbat dinner with my family. And so I want to thank everyone that attended this lecture. I hope it was helpful to understand things that you knew, but you didn't really know why that happens. And I promise you that as soon as there's going to be more developments, I'll talk to you, Randy, again, and we'll organize another lecture just to touch base and to again answer questions and make you aware of what's happening here. I may be joining the army again. I called them a few days ago and I said I'm available again if you need me. I'm ready to go. So they may call me again. I may have to spend more time in Gaza. And so, like I said, in the near future, we'll try to arrange this again. And thank you so much, Randy, for arranging this. And God bless you all.
Thank you. I have one more question for you here, but I do want to say anyone who'd like to give a donation to Boaz and his work, go to paypal.me/rwhite2707. paypal.me/rwhite2707. Whatever you give through there will go directly to Boaz. I'll put that link in the comments also so that that can be found. And there may be some who just want to say, hey, we appreciate you, we love you, Boaz, and that. But I want to talk about something completely unrelated, but is just about Jewish. You're about to go to Shabbat dinner. Tell us, most of us are Christians in this audience. We don't have Shabbat. We don't have the Shabbat dinner. Tell us a little bit about what traditionally, what would a Jewish family be doing, or the Jewish families in your kibbutz? What are they doing this Friday evening?
Okay, so first we go to the synagogue, which I did about 2 hours ago, and we give glory to God. Then we come home, we take a shower, we dress up nicely, and then we are attending the table together. I usually invite also my extended family to join us. And just in short, because you can have a whole lecture just about that, we liked the Shabbat candles because that symbolizes the light that God brings into our homes as the Sabbath begins. We have wine and bread on the table, um, and we cut the bread. We literally break bread together and take a sip of the wine, not much, but just a sip, everyone that's around the table. Then, very nice food. It doesn't have to be something specific, but it has to be a fancy food that people will really appreciate and stay longer around the table, not just have a bite and leave. And also, every Sabbath, we read from the Bible about the Exodus. Every single Sabbath, not only on Passover. And the reason is that we always want to remind ourselves and our kids and our grandkids and whoever is around the table that it's by the power of God that we're sitting here around the table as free people, because God brought us from slavery to freedom, and we don't ever want to forget it. And we always want to remind everyone about it and tell God how much we love Him, appreciate Him, and give Him glory for having us around the Sabbath table. So that's in a nutshell, Randy.
Amen. And I tell you what, before we go, Boaz, I would like to say a prayer for you and for your family on this Shabbat and ask the Lord to bless you. Dear Heavenly Father, what a blessing it has been to be with Boaz, and as they gather together around their Shabbat table tonight and are reminded of the light and the protection that God gives, I pray that you would encourage them in the celebration of the bread and the wine, of the joys that are theirs, even in the very difficult times that they are in. And may this Shabbat be a very special one as they encourage one another and bless one another. And we pray not only for them, but we pray for both the Jews and the Christians in that part of the world that are suffering and have been suffering all these months since October 7th, over a year ago, and that there would be some light and some insight and some wisdom given. And to those of us in the United States that have to look from afar and try to figure out what's going on, give us wisdom and understanding as well, and help us to spread the word. We ask this in Jesus' name. Amen. God bless you, my friend Boaz. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much, brother. Thank you, everyone that attended. God bless you all, and we'll meet you again soon. Thanks.
Thank you. And I will put that video in the links in the comments as well, so people can hear that, as well as the paypal.me/rwhite2707 link. God bless you, Boaz. Look forward to being with you here, hopefully sometime soon.
You take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you all for joining us. I do appreciate it. And it's been through Israeli eyes and a blessing. And if you have any questions, Randy at randywhiteministries.org. We'll see you soon. And until then, I do pray that God would bless you and encourage you. And we'll see you soon.